Hey there, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Esteban, and this is the Esteban Hour podcast. It's Friday night. What's on your agenda tonight? I hope everybody is doing well, doing exactly what you want to be doing tonight, but doing it legally. All right. So today we have a special um, Oh, what can I call it? Well, we're talking about cannabis. We're talking about marijuana. That's exactly what we're talking about today. Cannabis, also known as marijuana, as I mentioned, cannabis is a plant. It's a plant that is used for both recreational and medicinal purposes. It's been used for thousands and thousands of years for psychoactive and therapeutic effects. The main psychoactive compound is in cannabis is called delta 9, and that's tetrahydrocannabinol, which is THC, which produces the high sensation when consumed. Cannabis, well, it can be consumed in various forms, including smoking, vaporizing, or even ingesting edibles. It's often used for relaxation, stress relief, pain, which includes all types of pain management and even enhancing creativity. However, it's important to note that cannabis can have different effects on different individuals, and it's not suitable for everyone. And I know that. In recent years, there's been an increasing research on the potential medicinal benefits of cannabis. It's been found to have effectiveness in treating certain medical conditions, such as chronic pain, epilepsy, and nausea caused by chemotherapy. However, it's also essential to consult with a medical professional before using or consuming cannabis for medicinal purposes. It's also worth mentioning that the legal status of cannabis varies from country to country and even within states or regions. And we're going to get into that today. Some places have legalized cannabis for both medicinal and recreational use, which we will also talk about today, while others still have strict restrictions and criminalize the use of cannabis. It's crucial to be aware of the laws in your jurisdiction regarding cannabis or marijuana use. The legal status of cannabis varies from country to country and even within different states in our country and regions. Some places cannabis is fully legalized, and or medicinal and recreational use is legal. Some others it is strictly illegal. For example, as of what I know, Canada and Uruguay have fully legalized cannabis for both medical and recreational use. I wonder why Amsterdam is not in there. And in the United States, several states have also legalized cannabis for both purposes, medicinal and recreational, although it remains illegal at the federal level. Some countries and states have decriminalized cannabis possession, meaning that it's not considered a criminal offense, but may still be subjected to fines or other penalties. It's important to research and understand the laws and regulations regarding marijuana use in your specific jurisdiction so that you can ensure your compliance with the law. Now, with that said, a little research on cannabis, also known as marijuana. Now we will get into the topic for discussion. Let's bring in our panel. Author, activist, and co-host of the Esteban Hours Week in Review, Jeremy Baker. Co-creator and co-producer of the Esteban Hours Week in Review and contributor, Mike Felino. And the owner of a publicist company. I'm so sorry. I forgot at the moment. Mr. Ty Money Wells. Don't kill me, Ty. Please don't kill me. And Miss Ovita Wells, please don't kill me as well. Bring her up. She is a radio talk show host and has her own podcast from Vita Talks, located on Facebook. Welcome everybody.
Hey,
What's up, man?
how's everyone?
Thank
My favorite
having
topic.
me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I know I said don't talk too much, but I didn't say stay quiet.
Right? And everybody's like,
We're just excited. We're just anticipating.
I think everybody's excited that I just shut up for a while.
Thank you,
Thanks for
everybody.
having me. I appreciate it.
Thank
Same.
you for coming on and being a guest on the show. We all know each other from the Week in Review, so we've all engaged in wholesome conversation before. And I wanted to bring you guys on this topic because marijuana use is prevalent now everywhere, right? It's all around the country. Whether you smoke or not, you know someone who smokes in your house or next door. I know in my neck of the woods, I have a lot of tenants that complain because other tenants are smoking ever since they lessened the laws and made recreational use more legal. Everyone is doing it to the point that everyone who doesn't do it is surrounded by the smoke and can smell it, and they don't like it. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them.
What? It's like the best smell ever. What are y'all talking about? Like my favorite thing to do is to get a brand new bag of weed, is stick my face in it and just inhale until I can't feel my lungs anymore.
So says a pothead.
Yeah.
What?
No.
What are you talking about?
I do not like smelling like marijuana. Cigarettes, marijuana.
Is that a politically correct term anymore?
Right.
What?
Right.
Pothead or marijuana?
Yeah,
No, actually,
stoner.
if you're called a pothead, it's like you're called a king. It's like you're called, something great. If someone
really?
finds out you're a pothead, that's like yay, because they're probably a pothead too.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
now they know they got their buddy, and they know what they can hook up on.
It's the
We
look
raise
across
people
the
together.
room. The look
Yeah.
across the
No,
room.
seriously,
Right?
you could be complete. That's the one thing I love about weed. You could be complete strangers from different sides of the world, and if y'all smoke weed, you'd be best friends in a half hour. Like, come on, that's the best part about
It's true.
marijuana, man.
Yes,
Like
and
Smokey
you will
said,
share.
we'd be letting you know.
You will
Oh,
share
yeah.
Everything
stuff
about
with
the
each
person.
other.
Sharing is caring,
Well-
especially with weed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, all of that, the love and the serotonin, all of that fills your body, and so you're not in a bad mood, so it's easier to get along with each other.
Yes.
Yeah, you're
that's
feeling
right.
good, you're feeling happy, you're feeling relaxed. The
And
edge
actually,
is not.
It
one
is
thing
supposed to be a
Esteban mentioned-
communal thing.
Yeah, the one thing
Yeah.
Esteban mentioned, I think that is important. Is I think it really does increase creativity.
Oh, yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
honestly, I wrote a book, and I would not have written this book if I wasn't using cannabis while I wrote the book. It's probably why the book is absolutely insane. But
Some
you know what I
of
mean?
the song was written
It-
under influences.
Oh God,
They
yeah.
class-
I mean,
that.
well, I mean, that's the old adage, right? The creativity, you need
Yeah.
a little edge, right? I mean, unfortunately, some people take it too far. Some people maybe didn't get what they expected out of it, but it's to
Yeah.
everyone who uses it, and I hate using the word use because it kind of sounds weird, but to everyone who, let's say, understands and
Partakes.
appreciates the different facets that cannabis represents, whether it's medicinal or creativity or just relaxing at the end of the day, which is my personal favorite. I mean, it's very much a shared experience. Everyone gets it. Everyone knows what it feels like to just let that breath out after a long, stressful day, and people that it helps here and there. So it's just something that a lot of people could relate to.
That's right. Now, I will say, I've smoked weed before. Weed, and that's the slang word of for marijuana and cannabis. I have many family members and friends who smoke marijuana as well, and they can work while they're high. I cannot.
Not for everyone.
I've used it, like you said, Mike, as a tranquilizer,
Mhm.
as a downer to calm me from the day's pressures, from high blood pressure.
Yeah. No, really. That's
Mhm.
But I have I have a lot of employees and friends that they can function, they can work while they're high, and in fact, they
Uh,
they are a better person when they are high. They think clearer
wow.
and straighter when they're
Mhm.
high, and I can't understand it
that's why
because
it's so
No.
complex.
I think
right,
weed is more of, to me, weed is more of an emotional drug. As a former drug addict, I can very much confirm that all other drugs typically take stuff away from you, whether it's your dignity, your money, your freedom, your
I agree.
literally
Yeah,
your you know what I mean? You don't even have the freedom of
Your
choice
life.
at that point.
It
Yep.
does.
And marijuana
Yeah.
is not one of those things. And as somebody who has suffered an
Yeah.
overdose and almost died several times as a result,
Wow.
I can tell you for a fact that you cannot, there's literally been 0 deaths from marijuana in the entirety of human history. Now, people are allergic,
That's
can
what
be
I'm saying.
allergic to marijuana, like our friend Paul. He's allergic to weed, poor guy. Feel
That
so sorry
sucks.
for him. It does.
oh,
But
powerful.
other than that, that's the nice thing about it. Like, yeah, you get really high, but you're not going to die. There's no way to kill yourself
And
using weed.
you also
Look,
obviously
you're gonna
have to
get
be within.
hungry.
Oh, you're
You're gonna
definitely
get
going to get hungry.
hungry. Okay.
But
You
You
might
know,
laugh a lot.
it's
you
like
might forget a
anything
few
else.
things now. You might forget a
Yeah,
few
that's a
things.
problem. That's
Oh
a
yeah,
problem.
But
but like
and
anything else,
really
it's in moderation, right?
yep.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
and
have
really
a few cells.
in these days of opioid addiction and things like that, man, I mean, just to not want to celebrate marijuana, a drug that you can't overdose on,
Yeah.
and a drug that
Yeah,
teenagers can't get hooked on, that's going to destroy their lives.
exactly.
I
Yes.
mean, they should definitely legalize marijuana, because
Yeah.
it's not taking anything from you, like he said, and and it's keeping
Brain
our kids
cells.
off opioids and things like that. And these doctors are pouring out pills these days.
Oh
They're
yeah.
giving everybody a prescription for Xanax or this or that,
Yep.
and getting them hooked
Yes.
on
Which,
pills, and
yep,
marijuana,
it has
it
horrible
cures a
side
lot of
effects.
and marijuana has the cure for a lot of those attributes without the
Yeah.
addiction that those
Yep.
opioids have. So
Well,
I think
let's.
people always. Oh, I think people always used to
Before,
think it
go
was
ahead.
just you getting high masked symptoms, if you will. Uh, but they're finding out through all the research that's not actually the case. Yeah, it might
Mhm.
distract you from pain. Yeah, it might help you focus if you have anxiety and all that. But there literally are conditions where it physiologically helps you. And
right.
I think that's something that people have always known inherently. Maybe back a 1,000 years, people didn't know why it helped you, but there were people there with chronic illnesses too, and they probably were self-medicating.
Mhm.
It's like the
Yeah.
medicinal uses are actually what it came from. Like most substances, LSD, for example, that was researched for a bunch of different reasons, some nefarious, but then it became a street drug.
Mhm.
A lot of drugs became street drugs. Cannabis is no different. It's just that it's always been linked. It's always had a weird dichotomy where it's both a drug that is like a medicine for you, but also a social thing. You like it. It's a very weird place. Most people don't say they like Tylenol. So
Right.
so it's hard for
No.
some people to admit.
But
I
they
think
like
that's where. Oh, I was gonna say,
yeah.
I think that's
Look,
why it's hard for some people to admit that they use it, because, oh, I use it. Well, you can enjoy it too. It's a medicine that can help you,
Right.
and you
It's
can enjoy it.
okay
Yeah.
it's not like you're taking your Vicodin or your Percocet. That's a whole different ball game.
Exactly.
Cycling.
So let me real
Yeah.
quick before do you mind, Esteban, if I play the first video before we go too much more
Go
into it?
ahead, because I was gonna say let's play this first video, and then as the host, I'm gonna give my experience of my first time when I first used marijuana.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
got a good one for that. Oh boy, that's gonna be fun.
Department of Health and Human Services has reportedly taken the first step toward easing federal restrictions on marijuana. Cannabis is currently legal in some form in nearly 40 states now, but federally it's still illegal and classified as a Schedule I drug, the group that includes heroin and meth. Now, last year, President Biden directed HHS to review how that drug is actually classified. The president did this when he pardoned thousands of Americans who had been convicted on federal charges of marijuana possession. Proponents of reclassification have asked it be a Schedule III, a group that includes drugs like Tylenol and codeine.
Now, does everybody remember when President Biden did that? That was one of the best things that he could possibly do, is to pardon everyone who by statistics showing was mainly Black people who have been incarcerated, and their how do you say, their profiles, their backgrounds ruined just because they happen to have a bag of weed
or less.
Or less, and now they cannot get that government job, or they cannot go for that high time corporate position because they have a marijuana charge on their record, which is really bad.
Right.
President Biden came along and said, "No, we're not doing that anymore." And that still happened to people who were arrested 20 years ago, and 20 years ago, it's still on their record, which is bad.
I was gonna say, I know a guy who struggled till, I don't know him anymore, but up until when I did know him, he struggled for years getting a job from a 25-year-old $50 bag of weed sale charge.
That's insane. That's insane.
Insane. Yes,
It is.
insane.
It's just out of touch with reality.
How much money did that guy lose over the years from being able to get a better job because of that stupid charge? You know what I mean?
And it's not fair because you've got people who are doing things that are even more illegal, but they just haven't gotten caught. But they haven't gotten caught because of the color of their skin, not because they're doing anything better.
People are selling fentanyl and killing people.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you compare that to weed? Like, I don't think, I'm a drug counselor. I haven't done it in a couple of years, but when I looked at the guys, though, because it's not here, it's not legal for if you are like on probation, you can't smoke, or you can't smoke. Right. So a lot of them, I was like, well, if you can't wait 3 months to smoke weed, then you do have a problem, and it's going to cost you your freedom. That's when you do have an addiction. I think some people do get addicted to marijuana because a lot of people use it as a coping mechanism. Whatever your coping mechanism is, you want to feel good, you want to get out, you want to get out your situation. It's just not going to cause you to jump off a bridge or to the elephants, unless you got something mixed in there now. Now you got there's different kind of weed out here that people mess up. Like it was that one weed that all them kids was losing their mind. You saw them just react. I forgot the name of that, but it had stuff in there. that's the difference.
It was laced.
It had other, when you mixing stuff in your weed, that's the problem. That's why it's not good to be banning stuff off the streets a lot of times. Nowadays it's not good to do that. But
first of all, that's called laced, Ovida. It was laced. The blunt was laced.
Yeah, it was laced.
Now that marijuana is been legalized more on a recreational basis, is it really worth it to go to the street and
it's funny.
I think it's lowering street prices, man.
That's what it is. I've actually had some conversations with people whenever I go to the dispensary near me, because it is legal here, and it's interesting. You hear some people complaining about the price, right? And it's not like a Cadillac versus some other junk car situation. What it is you're paying for the potency, the consistency. And to be fair, you're paying for the variety, and you're paying for the options that you have. So you get your guy on the street, you're going to get a cheap bag. All right, maybe it's $45, $50 an eighth, but you can get something for $45 at the dispensary, or you can get something for $65, which has a higher THC content. So if you're, you know what I mean, like there are people who are still going to go to the street, but I don't think you're going to see it as much, because the dispensaries really are an experience, and I think that draws people in. But for the most part, you're right. No one's getting weed on the street as much anymore in places that
They
are
still
legal.
do it out
That's
here.
the key. Well, no, that's
For
the
me, it's
problem
like
is they got to make it more accessible
Yeah.
to everyone.
I think
They
For me,
Avita,
it's more of a
still out
weed
here
is
on
like
the
a
street.
yeah.
I think Avita, what the weed that you was talking about, that wasn't weed. That was the K2, and that was the first
Right.
legal
Oh, the
weed that the
spice, yeah,
government came
that was
out
the-
with. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
Yeah.
K2.
incense. It was not the same as marijuana. That was incense and stuff that they put together that was supposed to give you the same euphoric
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
as marijuana.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the
Yeah.
government, that was a government's plan to try to legalize something similar to marijuana that that people could smoke and that they could regulate because they had the formula.
Right.
But that formula didn't work.
killed
Marijuana,
it.
it doesn't do you that way. It's
No.
that was not the
Right.
same. That was not marijuana.
Yeah.
And marijuana, whether medicinal or just for pleasure, it goes back to like the Indians. They smoked peyote and
Yeah.
Yep.
and
Yeah.
that's how they got creative. And and look how many beautiful things we still cherish from the Indians, and how many and
Yeah.
how many instruments that we relish, the
Oh yeah.
arrowheads and stuff like that, and that that we marvel over, and
Mhm.
and their creativity in building homes and stuff like that. Well, that was all done on marijuana, and
Yes.
so
So
people got to realize that this is not something that stops your creativity. It doesn't. It slows you down a little bit. Yeah, we all know that it's not a drug that doesn't slow you down, but we have alcohol that slows you down way
Yep.
more than marijuana.
And
Yep.
Nobody gets high
yeah.
in speed. You might sit at a stop sign a little longer than you supposed to,
Yeah,
but you're not going to
exactly.
be speeding on marijuana.
Exactly.
No.
Whereas
right.
Yeah.
alcohol, people are jumping in vehicles and killing people because that
Yeah.
drug gives you that want to go
Yeah.
and crazy type feeling.
Yeah.
Marijuana, you just gonna
Yeah.
eat, slow down a little bit, and you're gonna go
Yeah.
to sleep eventually.
The
So
Yeah, it's
biggest
funny
help
when it
And
comes
like you
go
said,
to
with
sleep with a cigarette.
alcohol,
when it comes go ahead, Ovita.
no, when you talking about alcohol, alcohol is definitely like alcohol is one of those drugs that you can't even get off by yourself. You have to have medication or you would
You
die.
do.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Yes.
That's
weed,
true.
you can
Absolutely right.
stop.
You'll just be
Weed, you
angry.
can stop.
Right.
Like I stopped. After
Yeah.
I had my son, I didn't want him to see me getting high and all that stuff. So I stopped smoking weed. Alcohol, people don't know how dangerous
Oh yeah.
alcoholism is. You cannot just drinking. You have to be go to the doctor and they have to give you medicine in order for you to stop drinking.
Yeah,
Yep.
Barbitol it's called.
Is
Yep.
I've been to rehab several times.
they ever put
Yeah, I've seen people coming off
ever put
alcohol.
weed in the same
They get the
category?
shakes. They get the shakes really bad.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with a guy, and he literally had a seizure and fell on the floor right in front of me, like literally like that. It's so dangerous to come off of alcohol, and a lot of people try it at home and die because they have seizures. They fucking, excuse my language, they throw up and they choke on it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Alcohol is so dangerous, and people don't understand that.
But it's so socially acceptable, right? Even today,
Right.
with marijuana becoming more socially
Exactly.
acceptable, any show you watch, oh, it's just people acting stupid. Like for an example, you take some reality show, the Housewives, right? And they're always getting drunk and falling into bushes and making assholes of themselves in
Yeah.
public. And it's like, ha ha ha, I had 12 martinis. But if they were to show one of them smoking a blunt or ripping a bong, it would be like on the
Yeah.
headline news. But so it's okay to drink and act like an asshole, maybe go drive and do all that, but you just want to like relax. Ooh, stigma. Come on.
Dude,
But
Like,
the
I
difference
think the
between
times, the times
the
are
difference.
changing. So as we move on within the next decade and the decade after that, I do believe that marijuana will be looked at just the same as alcohol.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so I want to give my experience of my first time smoking marijuana, and I'd like to hear anyone else's who wishes to share that. I was raised in religion, so I did not know what smoking and drinking and all of that was as a child or a teenager.
Right.
But I have to say, I longed to do it. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, you whatever you couldn't do, you wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
especially
Yeah.
when your parents told you no, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I managed to stay away from that throughout my entire adolescent and teenage time period. I did not
Mhm. No.
smoke until I reached my 20s. And that was because, of course, I'm an adult now and I'm able to do
Yeah.
what I want and make my own decisions. And I
Right.
started to see that my friends, the people that I hung out with, they were into that, but they never did
Yeah.
it around me. But they were, but
Mm.
to it. And so I believe 2001 was the year that I smoked my first blunt in 2001. And coincidentally, September 11th, 2001 was the first time I smoked a cigarette.
Wow.
Yo,
Mm.
that's crazy.
That day was everyone smoked around me, and I always thought it was a fad and it was so cool, but again it was a don't do that, and
Yep.
so I didn't even touch that. I picked up a joint here and there, but on September 11th,
Yeah.
that
Everyone
was
was
so
doing
extreme.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it. My girlfriend at that time was a cigarette smoker, and I said, hand me a cigarette,
Mm.
and she
I
surely
I said that's crazy because oh, I'm sorry. The first time I ever smoked a blunt was in 2001.
okay, so hold your story. I'm not done
Sorry,
yet.
sorry. Sorry.
So my first time I was in my own apartment. A friend of mine was staying with me, and he smoked weed. So he was like, you know, I can get some stuff, and I'm like, no, you know, I can't touch that stuff. No, anyway, he got me to do it. Okay, I
So what
didn't know
happens?
what it felt like to be high, so I thought I was having a heart attack. Literally. I was hallucinating. I was going crazy. My heart rate was ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. And he's like shaking me, snap out of it. You know, you know how we call each other niggas, right? You know, in the hood. Well, you know, me and Ty. That's our way of calling each other, you know, my boy,
Homie.
my
Yeah.
friend. And
Yeah.
so he would be
Yeah.
like, nigga, snap out of it. You're just high. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm having a heart attack. How are you going to tell me how I feel? No. I made him call the cops, call the police. And he refused to do it for about 10 minutes. And then I guess he got tired of me telling him call the cops. He finally called the cops. For some reason, as soon as he called the cops, it went away. But not because the feeling went away. Not
That
because the
is
feeling went
hilarious.
away. It was still there, but because the brain power woke up and realized, dude, you just called the cops. And
Yep.
so all of a sudden, I
Funny.
just snap out of it, and now we're running around the house to look for paraphernalia to make sure there's no drugs out, there's no marijuana. He's like, call them back, and tell them you're good. So I did. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm sorry, guys. I was just, you know, I'm not having a good day, and they're like, we're coming over there anyway.
Yes, they will.
We want to just make sure. So I had to throw water on my face and eye drops in my eyes and all of that. And in my house where I lived on, it was a private house on the 3rd floor, and there were like staircases, wind up staircases that would come to me. So I stood outside my door right at the top of the staircase while as they're coming up the stairs. Hey, sir, how you doing? You okay? I'm fine. I took some medication. I don't think it rubbed me the right way, but I'm okay. Why don't you come inside and sit down? Let's have a talk. And anyway, it turned out fine. They were okay. I would look over at my friend, and he was completely shitting bricks. He was sweat was coming down. He was beady-eyed. You know, he was totally. And so I realized I really had to make this it seemed like this is a normal situation. Mind you, I'm still high at this moment. I'm still high.
Wow.
So after they left, we're high-fiving each other. And we did it. And he looks at me, he goes, "Nigga, I told you was just high."
Oh my God.
And I will never,
that's great.
ever forget that moment again. Because of course, the more you smoke, the more those feelings become normal.
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get used
And
to
you
it.
understand. So the more I smoked after that, I would just look back and I would just laugh. Every time I would think of this story, I would just
Yeah.
laugh because I'd be
Yep.
like, what a stupid ass I
Yep.
was, a
I
complete
think
dumb ass.
if somebody just tells you, look, you're going to be
That's
real
your first
paranoid
time.
for about 10 minutes and then you'll be fine. Just ride
Yeah.
this shit out. Okay. You're going to be cool.
Oh man.
But I think he
I've
was
never
telling
been
me
like
that,
that.
and I didn't believe him.
Yeah, you
I
can't
didn't
process
believe him.
that.
Because
I used to love
every feeling in my body was going north, south, left, and right. Every feeling.
Kind of
And I'm
weed
like,
was
this is
that?
not
What was the name of
normal.
that
Yeah.
weed?
Yeah, right.
Now we
What was the
wowie.
name of that
Man,
weed?
I
Was
actually
that
got
the
my one
ganja? They
friend.
used to call it the purple. What was the name
Oh, yeah.
of that?
Well, back in
Right.
those days, they had what was called hydro. I don't
Oh,
hear
yeah.
that
Oh,
too much
hydro, yeah.
today. Hydro.
Hydro.
And then they had
Middies.
what was
Dr-
Middies and
Say that?
swag.
Purple.
Purple haze.
Purple haze. You don't see
Yeah,
that
it's an
much
original.
anymore.
Oh,
No.
you guys want to name off? You guys want to name off strains? I could do a 2-hour episode and just name strains.
You can't, because I don't
There's so
remember
many. They're
everything.
crossbreeding stuff. Like I don't think
Oh,
people respect the amount of effort that goes into growing
Yeah.
good weed.
No, it's true
It
science.
is an actual act of love. You have to love that
Yeah.
plant and
Yeah.
nourish that plant properly, because you just don't throw it in the ground and like corn, you just don't throw it in the ground and it grows. You know what I mean? You want to grow good buds, good flower. There's a process. Like you have to manage the chemicals properly. You have to feed it the fertilizer. You have to like it. I used to work at a place that grew weed.
And it's a big
It
process,
was like
right?
walking
Oh, yeah.
into freaking Disneyland for me, man. It was hard ass work too. I don't care what anybody said. You
Oh
think
no,
you're gonna go
it's
into
not
a weed
easy.
Yeah.
They're
place?
maintaining all the pH balance,
No.
the right lighting, when the lights come
Yeah.
on, when the lights go off.
I know
They have a
guy who
light
grows
cycle
his
they have to go
own
on at a
marijuana.
certain time of their lifespan. Like it's
You have to
crazy.
trigger their process. Like you're actually
They
taking
do.
Yeah.
It is
over the
really
photosynthesis process yourself. It's
like back in the
fascinating.
day, we used to get this it was just Mexican brickweed is what it was. And like when you would get it, it was like literally mostly stems and seeds, and you
Yep.
smoke it blunt after blunt and just get a
Ugh.
headache.
Yep.
Now these kids are spoiled. They can walk into a dispensary and be like, I would like to feel like this with a little bit of pain relief. And you know, I'm not doing anything this weekend, so I want something that'll let me on the couch. I'm like, you know what, asshole? You know how many
It's
drug dealers I had to meet in the alley
uh,
to buy
Okay,
a bag
so
of weed?
Jeremy,
Yeah.
Get the
all
good
right,
stuff
Jeremy,
out.
really quick, tell us your story.
Oh, so my first time smoking weed just happened to be the first time I drank as well. It was at a high school
Oh,
graduation party. I got invited, went, I started drinking, never drank before, got real tipsy. My judgment skills went through the toilet. And somebody talked me into smoking weed too. And I didn't know drinking and smoking weed at the same time is like a guarantee to get the spins.
Yeah.
So I smoke, this stuff kicks in, I'm hammered, and I'm like 17 at the time. And I'm laying down on the ground, literally face first. Like I'm literally barely conscious at this point. The room starts spinning. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna throw up. You know when your mouth starts watering when you gotta
Oh,
throw
yeah.
up, and you
Yep.
know it's coming. You're like, I'm like, oh shit. So when I'm in a basement, and we're in a finished basement in a room full of people, and I go to run to the bathroom. There's only one bathroom in this whole place, and some guy and a girl got in a fight, and the girlfriend locked her ass in the bathroom. And I'm at this point literally holding this shit in my mouth. So the only option I had was the
Wow.
door behind me, which happened to be his dad's garage,
oh.
and I threw up all over the guy's dad's Lexus.
Wow.
And then I went and passed out. So yeah, that was my first time
Wow.
drinking and smoking weed.
Did you get an asthma?
Yeah, the combination, you was ready to
And-
be messed up.
And to make
Man.
things
Drinking
worse,
and
I had
smoking.
my first hangover the next day, which was lovely. And my dad and
Yeah.
I went to the movies, and we went to see what's that Denzel Washington movie with the submarine? When
Oh,
Oh, I can't believe I'm going to forget the name of it. Anyway, it's extremely loud. And there's a lot of explosions, and my dad doesn't know I'm hungover. So I have to act like, and through my whole graduation, there's people I don't even remember going, "Hey, buddy, how you feeling?" My dad's like, "What are they talking about?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Crimson Tide. The name of the movie is Crimson Tide.
Crimson
Oh,
Tide, that's it. They're so loud, man. That every explosion like literally made my head feel like it was ringing a bell being rung. Dong. Oh, it was so bad. That's it. That was my story.
All right, we're gonna go on to my,
wow.
but I want to just mention something. When I started smoking marijuana, I was amazed how everybody around me was already smoking marijuana.
yep.
There were
Yeah.
all of my friends and family members. I knew nothing. There were my best friends. There were people that I spent so much time with, did not know that they smoked marijuana. Now, I appreciate it because I would go to them and I asked them, why didn't you tell me? And they told me, we knew you didn't smoke weed, and out of respect for you,
Yeah.
we didn't do it around you, and we didn't even
That's
bring
super
it.
dope.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I respected that, but I was bewildered that when I started smoking, everybody, I mean, and I said to myself, oh my God, the whole world, the whole nation are potheads. I said,
Yep. Oh yeah.
There's a lot of
and I'm
us.
talking about older people too. I
Who do
learned
you
yeah.
think started it? The 60s.
Yeah, 420, man, Grateful Dead, like all those
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Willie
right.
Nelson, I mean, for real.
Willie
Those head
Nelson.
stoners.
He's the godfather of marijuana.
He is.
Hell
Snoop.
yeah.
We can't,
Him
gotta
and
mention
Snoop.
Snoop.
And
You
Snoop.
can't forget.
And
That's
Snoop.
also on my bucket list,
Oh.
by the way, is to smoke weed with Snoop Dogg. So
Hell
I gotta
yeah,
add that's another one.
that would be awesome.
I think
Snoop,
my
you hear
bucket list
this?
is pretty much just smoke weed with a bunch of different people that are famous.
So it's really an
thinking that.
ashtray, not a bucket list.
Yeah, it's a blunt tray.
All right, Mike, give us your story.
Oh man, I wish I could have a really funny story, but I'm gonna slide slightly into the sentimental because
That's okay.
this is a topic I don't vocalize very much, but weed is very important to me. And it's something I, as a kid, for some reason, I don't want to say like I watched a ton of movies like that people were just doing drugs in, but for some reason it was always something that like held a mystery to me, and I knew I was going to love it. I knew that it was going to be a creative, a relaxant, just something that I was going to enjoy. But very much like you, Esteban, I didn't start smoking until my 20s. I was a giant geeky band nerd. I didn't know anyone, but like you know what? Maybe I did know people, but they just didn't introduce it to me. But long story short, I was in college and I met what have become my best friends that I still talk to and see all the time. And they were like, "Look, you got to try this. This is not something I'm telling you to do. This is not something that you have to do, but it's fun. We love it. And we want you to enjoy it." And I didn't know these guys. They were bullshitting me because it turns out they really just wanted me to get hooked on cigarettes, because when you smoke weed, there's nothing better than smoking a cigarette afterwards. So now I know that really it turned out that they wanted another person with a pack of Camel Lights in their pocket. But back to the weed.
Man,
It has always been something that meant friendship to me. I'm not a big person who believes in ritual or stuff like that, but there is a ritual to weed. It's a personal thing, but it's also very much a friendship thing. When I'm with my friends and we're smoking, it's like home to me. It feels home. So I've always had a very protective place in my heart for weed, because it provides me with relief after a long day. It helps my anxiety. It helps, I'm not going to name who, but several people that are very dear to me with anxiety and chronic illnesses and sleep issues and other things. But more than anything, what I'll remember my journey from starting to smoke in a basement out of a bong that I still have today. Okay. Out of a bong that I still have today. It is 23 years old. It has always meant friendship to me and meant home and meant safety in a strange way. So my first time was like opening up a whole world of friendship that I never knew, that today are literally family to me.
I
So
like that.
sorry to get sappy, but
No, that's
Yeah,
good. I love that
some
because that's
weird heavy shit to me.
Love
because
it.
weed for
Yeah.
me, like I said, it's more of an emotional thing for me. And I like I said, I've experienced the best and worst of drugs, and I can honestly say that, like you said, I have a place in my heart for it. It's not like I don't just get stoned. Like this, kind of a
Yes.
way of life almost for me.
Yep.
Like my mom always asked me, "Are you ever not stoned?" And my response is usually, "Well, I have to sleep eventually." Like I
Look, some
consume it
people
all day, but I
some
do
people are on
edibles.
mood
Like I make my own
stabilizers.
pills.
Some
Yeah,
people
like
are on
I
mood
take it.
stabilizers.
Yeah, exactly. Like I use it as a ritual. Like I take it. I do edibles. I do like the oils. I actually buy the empty gelatin capsules and this stuff called Rick Simpson oil, and I make my own pills. I actually take it like a medicine, and I really barely smoke at all. I love flower and I love the way it looks. I love the way it smells, but I typically do edibles.
I've
And I
never
take
really
it
liked
ritually.
edibles. I've never really
They're
liked
intense.
They are
It takes some
intense.
getting used to. If you don't have a good coach when you're trying
That's
edibles,
true.
go low. All right, anybody out there that ever does try edibles, start low. Don't listen to your asshole
true.
friend that says eat this entire bag of gummies. And you're gonna be so high, you're gonna literally be visiting the International Space Station.
Right.
You know what I
Oh
mean?
my gosh.
Don't listen to that guy. Listen to me. Start low, and then you'll get to a spot where you're like, this is perfect, and it lasts a lot longer.
It's actually about dosage, really, and that's a word that proves that it's medicine, because I might want to take a dosage that'll, if I'm going to watch a movie or something crazy, I want to really get into it and melt into the couch. But if I'm going to like a family function and I don't want to reek of weed, I'll take a little bit of an edible so that I'm not anxious and just want to drink a bunch and then pass out. You know what I mean? Like it really is something that is very personal to each person. Which
it's weird. It's weird.
So, Ovida, you're next to give us your experience of your first time when you smoked. But before you do, I want to point out to all of our audience members who are watching right now, if you wish to share your first time or any comments in regards to smoking marijuana, please send them in. Let's have a field day of everyone's thoughts and comments in regards to marijuana. I would love to read them.
They're usually hilarious.
That'll be fun.
Oh yeah.
They're usually the best stories ever, man. Like usually they're just the greatest stories. Because they tell you how you felt, how the shit they saw, what they heard.
And
like,
that's what we want. That's exactly what we want. Go ahead, Ovida.